Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne alongside JD Fox for this Belmont Stakes Week edition of Champagne and JD. We'll have a lot of fun on this particular show. If you like what we do, go on down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly updates. Of course, we're starting to head into the dog days of summer. We'll have Saratoga, we'll have Del Mar, we'll have a whole bunch of really cool stuff. And we hope you'll join us for some of that. However, this week, we're taking a look at one of the great cards of the year in New York, the Belmont Stakes Day program, of course, anchored by the third leg of racing's Triple Crown. And we've got a great guest coming in to help us make some sense of some of the races on the program. And it's a really good program on Saturday, folks. A lot of stakes action. Joining us is a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway because that's just the kind of guy I am. He does a lot of work with the fine folks over at Racing Dudes. He is also a co-host of one of the best shows ever that drastically needs a new name, the Magic Mike Show. I am, of course, referring to Curtis Magic Kalleward. Curtis, thanks very much for joining us, buddy.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. It's a true honor to be here. I've been a fan of you guys both as handicappers and as humans for a really long time. So this is a real treat for me to be on here. It's different because, as you said, I co-host the Magic Mike Show, and we're getting close to 300 episodes. And I'm used to, driving the bus, so to speak, on that one. And so all of a sudden now I'm just going to kind of hang out in the back seat and just enjoy the ride. So I'm really excited to talk about some horses with you guys.
Well, just remember, there are some issues with this bus that we talk about before every single show, and every single guest will know exactly what I'm referring to. I'm catching JD's eyes as they roll out of his head. Hey, there you go, buddy. Anyway, so look, we want to focus on the positive stuff in this game. We do. We would not, however, be doing our duty if we did not talk about what had happened in Kentucky. Of course, the winner of the Kentucky Derby, Medina Spirit, a horse that someone gave out on this show a couple weeks ago. Remember that, JD? Am I remembering this right?
Yes, and I hope you give me a chance to remind you as well about another horse on that same episode, but continue.
I will, but, eventually. So, look, Medina Spirit, of course, tested positive for a banned substance. The split sample has confirmed that. What I'm going to bring up before we move on to handicapping the Belmont card, and look, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this. Everyone has an opinion on this, folks, so it's going to be really easy for mine to get lost in the noise. But one thing I will say is Kentucky has banned Bob Baffert for 2 years. I shouldn't say Kentucky. I should say Churchill Downs, so CDI tracks. There are certain tracks that have temporary bans on Baffert runners. For instance, Belmont Park in New York. They've already said Saratoga won't have Baffert entrance, whatever. We know that Monmouth will, at least until the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission comes down with a formal ruling, allow Bob Baffert runners to run at Monmouth Park. Santa Anita came out with a statement. They're waiting on Kentucky as well. It's a case where a lot of different commissions are doing a lot of different things. And while I am not one of those people who think a national racing commission is going to be the Lord and Savior of all of our problems, JD, am I crazy to think that this is one of those situations where we could really use one and have one standard that everyone abides by? Or am I just nuts?
Well, I think what you're going to see here is the timing of this and legislation that recently passed and trying to clean up horse racing from a similar medication standpoint throughout the U.S. as a starting point is on the horizon. We've got all the players have been nominated, all of the boards, all the oversight committees, all of those things have been drafted. It's just not in place yet. And I'm not saying that would necessarily curb what we're seeing here and what we've seen over the last few years in allegations related to Bob Baffert, but it would be a start. So now I think the unfortunate thing that may come from this, as opposed to us easing into that as a society for horse racing, I think we're going to see the accelerator pushed well past 50 miles an hour to make sure that gets in place quicker. And I just want to make sure that the oversight is correct in all jurisdictions, if that's going to be the case, for at least the medication side of it, because right now it's chaotic, especially with your 2-year-olds, what states no Lasix, what states it's stakes only for no Lasix, and so on and so forth. It's like unraveling a puzzle. So Obviously there's a California spin to this, and I want to get to that momentarily. But Magic, in general, your thoughts on what has transpired with this testing process and the Baffert barn?
Well, first off, it was nice to see someone take a stand against who was probably, we called him Teflon Bob. Anybody who's watched the Magic Mike show, or anybody with the Racing Dudes team, we all have the same general opinion of Bob Baffert and everything that's gone on here. So I won't dive too much into that, but suffice to say, it's nice to say that somebody is taking some action here against him, and not just a grandstanding action of, oh, well, we're not going to let you come back for the rest of the meet, because once the Derby and Oaks is done, why is Baffert going to go back to Churchill Downs? It's nice that they're going to ban him for the next 2 years from running there, but once the initial excitement kind of wore off of hearing like, yeah, this is great, somebody's bearing some teeth here, kind of started to think about what ramifications are there really, and I kind of turned into my own downer, and I didn't really like that. But you brought up the fact, Andrew, that there's the difference between the governing body, the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission, for example, versus what CDI wants to do, which is with private property. So if CDI wants to ban him from going there to Fairgrounds to Turfway Park, they can do that. But he can still go to Keeneland. He could still go to Ellis Park, for example. We have to wait for the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission to do something one way or the other. And I'm not entirely sold that even if they do something, we're going to see ramifications in California. I have my own qualms with the CHRB, but they are kind of tied because this didn't happen in a CHRB track. So they don't really have a whole lot of power to try and control something until another governing body takes an action. So I saw people harping on Santa Anita. They have their own legal teams that they are telling them what to do. So you can fall in line with that, but it's at least, again, nice to see that someone took some action, and someone who I believe is now at this point officially doing more harm than good for the sport of horse racing. If it pushes him into an early retirement, if it sweeping reform with HISA, whatever it takes to make something change, I'm all for it.
Here's my thing, and this is one of those things that'll probably bleed into the California discussion. There are some people defending Bob Baffert talking about due process. I understand that. That's a very valid point. Where were you on due process in the Jerry Hollendorfer situation? If I'm Jerry Hollendorfer, I've got a lawyer on speed dial drafting a really long notice right about now. And that is not to say that there were things Jerry Hollendorfer did that were 100% ethical. Maybe there's more we don't know. The problem is we don't know. There's not a lot of transparency in horse racing. And I keep coming back to the two words that I wrote about in a post-Derby column that I put on my website that were focal points of a 50-point plan that I wrote about to save horse racing many years ago that was motivated by someone else in horse racing really pissing me off. Optics matter. And if people are slow, or if people wind up being seen in history as being wrong, that's going to matter. You look at Monmouth Park, they have so many issues that are self-inflicted right now with the whip rule, with certain statements that have been made by members of the Monmouth administration. To come out in support of someone that Churchill Downs just banned for 2 years, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. And again, there are a lot of good people at Monmouth Park, a lot of people that make their living at Monmouth Park that do a lot of good for the game, and I really hope things wind up being okay for them. But just from an optics standpoint, it's a really bad look. And speaking of looks, you look at California horse racing right now. Look at the graded stakes races and the fields that California is drawing. There have been several with 4 horse fields, 5 horse fields, 6 horse fields. It gets to where if you've got a race in California that isn't one of the marquee races, at least at Santa Anita, and it's drawn 7 or 8 horses, you're jumping up and down. Unfortunately, it's a case where the Santa Anita opening day card 6 months ago, one of the best cards in Southern California of the last 3 or 4 years. Fantastic. Not sure where all the horses have gone, but oh boy.
Quick quiz for you, slightly off topic. 9 race card on Saturday. How many horses entered at Santa Anita? You guys know?
9 races.
Want to take a guess? 9 race card.
50?
I'm going to say 52.
It's actually 60, but that's still not 7 per race. That's
better
6
than it was.
3/4 horses per race on a Saturday lined up with Belmont.
Yeah. Putting it bluntly, California's in a really weird spot right now because that's where Bob Baffert maintains his operations. He trains at Santa Anita. He trains at Del Mar. He's got a string at Los Alamitos. If California takes a stand against Bob Baffert, yes, some of those horses will be redistributed amongst Southern California trainers. You'd think some of the major outfits would have connections with guys like Richard Mandela, guys like Richard Baltus, Big Barnes, John Sadler, a couple of others. But you also have to think that some of these other big barns would ship horses to guys like Brad Cox, to guys like Mark Casse, guys like Todd Pletcher, Christophe Clement, who don't run in California. And then you're looking at a big issue with horse population. You guys had it right. CHRB is in a really tough spot. There are certain things the CHRB has done over the years that make you scratch your head. They're in a situation right now that at least part of it is not their doing. And it's going to be interesting, I think, to put it mildly, to see how that plays out.
It's interesting too because with Baffert holding a majority of the talented 2-year-olds every single year, I've heard from some owners that the smaller owners that they don't like racing in California anymore because not just because the purses are sometimes better at Oaklawn, but if you know it's going to be a 5-6 horse field and you know Bob Baffert's got a Life is Good, a Justify, a Charlatan in that field, do you want to just automatically run for second or third and waste one of those bullets?
If I may jump in here, John Sadler actually said that was the reason Rock Your World was on turf, because in his exact words, and this is a great quote, why would you play Alabama every week?
Yeah, it's a real thing, and you see what happens with Rock Your World. It worked for John Sadler that this colt was talented enough to do well on turf and make the transition to dirt, but Michael McCarthy, for example, he just won the Preakness Stakes with Rombauer. He has kind of a smaller barn. He has maidens that he's an old school horseman. He takes his time and lets them develop. It's hard to tell owners, be patient. It's going to take 4, 5, 6 tries to break the maiden because Baffert's got 4, 5, 6 maidens that he's going to keep having to face. So I've been of the opinion, and this is completely unfounded without statistics, that if Baffert left California, it would actually improve things, at least from the maiden side and then the young 3-year-olds, because well, now it actually looks like it's a level playing field. And I don't mean from a cheating perspective. I just mean if he's holding all the aces in his hand every single time, do you want to keep playing for a second? If you suddenly take that away, suddenly it seems like it's a lot more open. But there is no way of knowing. I mean, you could have Baffert get removed from California, and we don't have California horse racing in 3 years. It's tenuous and it's rocky, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think the big issue with what you had brought up is if it was a full crop like 10 or 15 years ago where you've got 30, 40,000 horses being born every year and there are more horses, I think Southern California is in a far better spot if they decide to give Bob Baffert the boot. But now there are, 18, 20,000, something like that. There's less horses. And a lot of that has to do with the way horses are bred. It's a little bit of a different situation. But I hear you. It's one of those where, yeah, it could go one way really, really badly, and you've got 3 or 4 horse fields in major races. Or you have fields of 8 or 9 where trainers are more inclined to take shots because Baffert's not there. So it's really, really going to be fascinating over the next couple of months and maybe longer, depending on the speed of the legal system. We'll see. JD, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, California racing has been in an interesting position for probably, I'd say, the last 10 years. I mean, we're looking at, if you even dwell down to the fair circuit, we're at half the fair circuit tracks we had this time 10 years ago. And we don't have that Fairplex meet in LA. We don't have Hollywood Park anymore. We've got, Los Alamitos stepped up and Ed Allred, I mean, hats off to him. He built a track and allows the horses to run, and that's been great. But other than that, it's not been strong on Southern California. I think Golden Gate Fields has been doing an incredible job, and we're seeing a lot of horses ship up from Southern California to Golden Gate Fields. I think Golden Gate Fields, I haven't done the math for Saturday, but I would guess that Golden Gate Fields probably has a larger field size than Santa Anita. Of course, this will be the one weekend where it's not true, and I'm saying it, but that's been very interesting to see. So I don't know where it shakes out in terms of California and 2-year-olds? And I think that's the question that remains unanswered here, because unfortunately, when people hear of California racing, they immediately think of Bob Baffert. And we'll see if the name Baffert is bigger than the California bred industry. And I think the California bred industry can turn around and do just fine. It just depends on what trainers the owners decide to choose in Southern California. And I'm going to leave it at that, gentlemen.
It's one of those situations where, and I mentioned this to a buddy of mine while on his radio show prior to the Kentucky Derby. If your life depended on pulling somebody out of a sports bar and saying, name me a horse trainer, Baffert's probably the first guy that they think of, if they think of anybody at all. So for this to happen to Bob Baffert of all people, it's going to be fascinating to see how it shakes out. It's going to be interesting to see how each individual jurisdiction handles things. All I'm asking for is some consistency and some transparency. Here's hoping we get it. And that's where I'll leave it. So we'll now transition into some of the things that we really look forward to, and that's handicapping big days. Saturday at Belmont Park, a very big day. Of course, yes, you get the Belmont Stakes for 3-year-olds going 1.5 miles. There are a lot of stakes races on Saturday's program. It is a deep, competitive card. I can't call it a great card. Some of the stakes have shorter fields, and there are some instances where horses are dearly missed. Monomoy Girl and the Ogden Phipps, just saying, why is she at a farm if she's not hurt? Throwing it out there. I miss when it was okay for horses to lose, and I'll leave that right there as well. But the three of us will take a look at the all-stakes pick 4 that starts in race number 8 and ends in race number 11, which is, of course, the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes for 3-year-olds. However, for my money, we start off with the best betting race of the sequence. Race number 8 is the Grade 1 Just a Game Stakes for 4-year-olds and up, going 1 mile on that Belmont Park turf course. And remember, the turf course configuration at Belmont, little bit different than what you would see at some other tracks. So take that for whatever it's worth. And also take a note that speed has been very, very good over that turf course at Belmont Park. There are some instances where it has played a lot like green pavement, but New York got hammered with a lot of rain last weekend. Naturally, of course, because JD, Joe Mason, and I handicapped the pick 4 for Saturday at Belmont. A monsoon came in and wiped everything off the turf. It's all our fault. You can blame us in the comments section. Just make sure you hit the like and subscribe button while you're down there. So we've all got 3 late pick 4 tickets here. JD, how do you want to start this off?
I am going to start off. I know I rarely do that here, but I'm going to talk about the speed, and obviously blowout is probably the speed of the speed here. So 4-1 on the morning line. I mean, that's going to check a lot of your boxes. You've got Chad Brown, you've got Flavian Pratt. I mean, there's not a lot to go wrong there in terms of looking. You look at, what this horse has done. Has this horse ever finished off the board? The answer is no. But I do think that the going is going to be interesting. And you look at when this horse has not necessarily run at her best, and that has been on softer going. So if there's moisture in the turf course, which we're recording Thursday night, it's currently raining at Belmont. I'm just keeping that in mind here. So there's a lot of factors to look at, but the main horse I want to talk about is a horse that every track announcer has pronounced differently. So I'm going with Zofel, but I know that will be completely different than what's probably called on Saturday. But you look at this angle with Tyler Gaffleone getting aboard. This horse is 2 for 2 with Gaffleone aboard. Obviously, the last couple races with Irad Ortiz Jr., I'll be the first to say it on this. Hope everything is okay with Irad, who took a nasty fall today at Belmont, and we hope he's up and running very, very soon. Jose sending out some good news recently on through people on social media, so hopefully that remains intact and Irad's okay and can be back up and riding as soon as possible. But 2 tough losses for Zofel back-to-back in spots where I think Zofel really was expected to win, obviously 3-2 in the Honey Fox, 5-2 in the Distaff at Churchill.
Honey Fox was brutal, man.
Yeah, it got stormy.
Yeah.
Just stormed on through there. It was rough. It was a rough day for me as well. But, with that said, I'm willing to give Zofel a chance with Gaffleon back aboard. The other horses, I'm going to use Summer Romance, Tamahir, and New York Girl's kind of interesting long shot to me for Belmont Junior Alvarado up top. Only won the debut in North America at Gulfstream in an allowance affair, has jumped into Stakes Company and been on the board. I don't think we know a lot about this filly as of yet, so I'm willing to give her a chance with the pedigree and with some, decent runs over soft going. Actually, won a Group 3 to break the maiden over soft going. One of the reasons why I included New York Girl on the ticket. So I'm 5 deep here, 1, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And if you think that's deep, folks, check out Andrew Champagne's ticket.
And you'll notice I did not use Zofel. And here's why. For one, I don't love closers on the rail to begin with, because closers need a lot to go right by nature. That's just the way pace dynamics work. And Zofel is clearly at her best when there's a lot of speed in the race. There's some speed in this race, but I don't necessarily think there's a ton. And the rail draw is a concern because she's got to work her way through a really big field. Not to say that she can't. She's 8-1 on the morning line. I think she's going to be about 4-1, 9-2 come post time. It would not surprise me if she's the favorite, because I know there are some big bettors that are very, very high on this horse. I'm taking a little bit of a stand by not using Zofel, and that's the only sort of stand I'm making here, because I'm going 7 deep, and it's a case where my reluctant top selection is another horse that may well take some money. I'm referring to number 9 Summer Romance, a trainee of Charles Appleby, who also shipped in a horse to potentially run in the Belmont that unfortunately will not run in the Belmont. And that would have been a pretty interesting proposition that may have made J.D. Fox's head explode. Having said that, though, this is a horse that comes in off of a Group 2 win at Maidan against what I feel is a better group of horses. Luis Saez sees fit to ride, and I think this one is, to me, the most likely winner. But again, it's not like there's a ton of conviction there. I'm going 7 deep. I very well could have hit the all button in this spot, but you'll see very quickly that I'm trying to extract some value out of what I think is going to be a very easy winner in another one of these races coming up very shortly. So I decided to toss out a couple of horses, mostly long shots, but also I'm just not crazy about Zofel in this spot. If Zofel beats me, she beats me, and I'll play a pick 3 instead. Curtis, your thoughts?
Listen, for as far as Zofel goes, I don't love the fact that the one time she tries a grade 1, which happened to be this race last year, I think she's still trying to finish that. You look at what she's been able to do. Yeah, she wins a grade 3, great. She won the Pago Hop in 2019, great. Grade 3, no. Grade 2, no. Grade 1, no. Grade 3, no. Listed stakes, no. Listed stakes. You see my point here. She's really great at getting second and third, and in pick 4s, that doesn't really count for much. So I'm against her. Andrew, I thought you brought up a great point, too, about I don't like closers on the rail either in this spot. Listen, there's one thing that you need to think about here, and that is Chad Brown has brought 4 horses to a grade 1 race on New York turf. That's full stop right there. If you look at my ticket right here, it's all which way? This way? That way? That way? Nope, this way. Man, I cannot figure this out.
Here, right here. I got you.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, you got the easy one. Just point down. Listen, so Chad Brown actually had a really rough start to 2021. By that I mean he was only hitting at like 18, 19%, so tiny little violin for him. But one thing that Mike Samich and I noticed is that his horses they didn't look like Chad Brown turf horses. When it was time for them to rally, they didn't really have a rally. They just kind of ran in place. And we were like, this is kind of an odd year for him. We're going to take a step back and not bet him. And then we go to Keeneland. April 7th at Keeneland. Brings out this British bred, Juddmonte homebred, Pocket Square. Oh my God. Watch that replay and tell me that did not look like a classic Chad Brown horse. I'm not saying that she is Sister Charlie yet, but holy cow, the way that she kicked into gear with Irad in that race, it was so good that we made her our first star of the weekend because it was just unbelievable what she did. It's against Allowance Company. She didn't really beat a whole lot there. There wasn't even a next out winner from that race yet. However, came on soft going, so we know that she can handle that. Now we've got second out off the long layoff here. Why would Chad Brown send her from a second level allowance win into a grade 1 where you've got 2 really great Charlie Appleby horses along with 3 other ones here? It's because this horse is really freaking good. This is my top pick here. And if Chad Brown didn't have 3 other ones in here that I kind of like as well, I had thought about singling her at first. That I love that horse that much. She completely just blew my mind with that race. However, anybody who knows me, you know that I love Flavian Pratt, and I have to use the 11 blowout second off of, as well. This horse, as you said, JD, extremely fast. 11 for 12 in the exact in her career, has never finished worse than second going this distance. I think she's even a lot faster than the Appleby horse with Louis Saez aboard. I'm not a huge fan of the Appleby horses coming in specifically from who they faced when it comes to American style of racing. Yeah, they were really great at Meydan when they were facing the international horses. Nobody from America went to Meydan this year. They didn't really get to see what the Americans can do, and especially when you get into American turf riding, it's a lot different. And these horses, neither of them have done this before. It's a very different thing to do, and when we're talking a grade 1 where I think that Chad Brown has 4 really strong chances to win this race, it's too hard for me to swallow that. To me, it's just I'm going to use the 4 Chad Brown horses. I'm going to hope that I get a good price on somebody, but I really think Pocket Square is going to be the goods here.
I think
so. Curtis is absconding from any horses not trained by Chad Brown. Andrew is absconding from Zofel, and we're all absconding from Abscond.
I saw where you were going with that. No, I think it's a really cool betting race. I think if you have a strong opinion in this race, as far as if you like a horse, you're going to get a very bettable price. Not so, however, if we move to race number 9. This is the Met Mile. This is one of the most prestigious races in New York. It's drawn a field of 6. May I start with a rant?
By all means.
Okay. There are people out there who are trying to say, hey, there are 6 runners and anybody can win this race. JD, does that sound familiar to you?
It sounds like Southern California.
No, it doesn't. It sounds like a movie we saw in January at Gulfstream Park in the Pegasus World Cup when everyone was trying to poke these holes in Nick's Go, who was so much faster than the rest of the field and wound up winning as much the best. Will you please put my ticket up?
Maybe.
Just stop. Stop it. If Nick's Go is right, he jogs. It's as simple as that. I understand that Mischievous Alex is the flashy horse. And Curtis, I know you like that one a little bit, probably because the Carter was a very good-looking race on paper, and Safi Joseph has a remarkable strike rate with new acquisitions and getting the best out of them very, very quickly. When I look at Mischievous Alex, though, I see a horse that thrives at Gulfstream, that thrives at Aqueduct, and is just sort of shaky everywhere else. Shaky isn't going to get it done here. I think Dr. Post wants to go a little bit longer. I think Silver State wants a little bit more pace than he gets. And my goodness, as much as I loved Lexitonian last time out, and as much as that one keyed a really nice exacta for me, this just seems like a little bit too far for him. And then you look at By My Standards, who honestly I think runs second. Not a lot wrong with By My Standards, right? I think if you're playing this race just for the sake of vertical exotics, I think you do a Dave Weaver 6'5", ice cold exacta, because guys, if Nick's Go is ready to run, and judging by the work tab he is, I don't think he loses.
One thing I want to point out, and I showed the field graphic very quickly, I put a big reminder for everybody in parentheses that this is a handicap, and we don't really see these in North America these days. So Nick's Go is going to be your top weight at 126. Mischievous Alex is at 124. I don't see a big enough difference there to where I'm really going to get on the Mischievous Alex bandwagon. I'm keeping it very simple here with Nick's Go on top for me. I do like Lexitonian in second as opposed to By My Standards. Lexitonian getting 118, just missing last time against Flagstaff. I think
brutal photo.
All of us,
brutal photo.
I think all of us may have had a piece on that, if I remember correctly, and we're all devastated by it.
I wasn't devastated because I had the exacta boxed, and that still paid really well.
I mean, I'm in the I will never bet Flagstaff in my life camp, but that's me. So I think it's as easy as Knicks Go. Knicks Go's right for Cox and Rosario. I mean, it's going to be an easy mile victory for Knicks Go and a return to form. I'm keeping it simple there. And the only one who has some balls on this podcast is going to be Magic.
Ironic because we actually have 6 horses that all have their balls still intact here. Boy, I feel attacked coming on your show here, guys. First of all, I was a head away from the biggest Pick 4 score of my entire life on the day that my son was born. So thank you very much for bringing that up with Lexingtonian losing by a head to Flagstaff.
Dude, your son was born that day. That's such a bigger win, man.
It's true. It's true. And I was also one of those that was on Team Medina Spirit for betting that race. Listen, you're right. Knicks Go should win this race. If we get the Knicks Go that was in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, that's in the Pegasus, where everybody on the Racing Dudes team, we were all over this horse in those races. If we get that one, that Knicks Go, this race is over before it starts. But there's that word, Andrew. You kept saying it. I counted 4 times. You said if Knicks Go, if Knicks Go, if Knicks Go. What if Knicks Go doesn't come back from Saudi? What if Knicks Go, that was like that race when he lost the Saudi Cup, if that was it, if that's his career, and now he's going to go off to stud in Korea after this race because he's not going to win it, who's going to win? I think Mischievous Alex is the one to do it. He's actually my top play in this race. Listen, you brought up great points, that he is great at Gulfstream and he's great at Aqueduct, but Safi Joseph hasn't taken him anywhere else. He hasn't had the chance to take him anywhere else. And this is worth really literally nothing, but I was calling every step of where this horse was going after that first win at Gulfstream. I say he's going to go Gulfstream Park Sprint. He'll win that. He'll go to the Carter. And if he wins the Carter, he's going to the Met Mile. I expect him to be the favorite in the Met Mile. He's not. And so if I can get a good price on him, when I think everybody is going to be sending it in on Knicks Go, you two are both singling him. I think he, in this entire sequence, is the most likely single for anybody playing this. That intrinsically puts value on Mischievous Alex. 5-2 doesn't sound like value. But if everybody's singling Knicks Go, and if Knicks Go doesn't win, that 5-2 on Mischievous Alex is going to look a lot more like 5-1 in the payouts. Irad's going to stay on him. He's got a great draw on the inside here. It's hard for me to pass on this horse, and because I could afford to go too deep, I did. But I understand the Knicks Go love is very strong and very warranted.
See, my thinking is because there are so many people trying to make cases for so many of the other horses, I think we're going to get a little bit of an overlay on Knicks Go. I think there's a chance we get that 6-5 morning line price, and honestly, even money and up just screams like an overlay for me. And I don't say that about many horses in here. I just think Knicks Go gets the trip he wants. He gets that outside post, and I think he goes and leads them from flag fault. That's all. But I understand where you're coming from, too, from a wagering ticket construction standpoint. And if you're playing a grid-style ticket, maybe you take Magic's ticket, you use the 1 as either a B or an A, and you put Knicks Go on some other tickets to where you separate them a little bit to where you're live either way, and maybe you extract a little bit of value. That's what tools like DRF Ticketmaker are for, and that's where you wind up sometimes making some smart investments for a little less money, but you lean on your stronger opinions heavier, and that's where the money comes in. So there's a lot of different ways in which to attack this late pick 4 sequence. We're halfway through it, and we're moving on now to race number 10. This is the Grade 1 Manhattan. It has been the lead-in to the Belmont Stakes for about the last 9,000 years, and this is a very evenly matched field. How evenly matched is it? Well, Domestic Spending and Colonel Liam dead heated on Kentucky Derby Day. Colonel Liam's 5-2, Domestic Spending 3-1, and there's a couple of other horses in here that are going to get some play as well. There's that Chad Brown guy again. He's got 4 runners in this race. Christophe Clement will be sending 2, including Gaffoe, who I desperately needed last time, and still for the life of me, I have no idea how he did not get by Channel Cat late in the stretch of that race. So we got a field of 10 here. There's not going to be an overly short-priced favorite. JD, who do you want to go first here?
Go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, so I'm going 3 deep in this spot. I'm using the 2 runners that dead heated in that race at Churchill Downs, and that's probably the race of the year, in all honesty. If we get something better than that, we're very fortunate as racing fans. Go back and rewatch that race again. You can rewatch the finish 10 different times and have so many different opinions as far as who hit the wire first. Did Colonel Liam get there? Did Domestic Spending get up? Was it whatever? It's a really cool, really fun race to rewatch. I'm using those 2. I am also going to use number 9, Gaffoe. I'm giving him another shot because that race in the Grade 1 Man Award, was his first start since November. He had every right to need that race, and he ran like he needed the race. He was very green early on, was way, way back, sort of seemed like he was shifting gears when he shouldn't have in the stretch. He was looking around a little bit. I just think maybe this is a horse that needed that race, and he's going to be the third choice at his shortest. If he drifts up a little bit from that 5-1, maybe we get a little bit of value on a horse that's probably sitting on a career best effort. The question is that career best effort good enough at his likely price? I'm using him, and here's hoping we find out. 4, 9, 10 for me in the Manhattan. JD, who's next?
I'm so similar. I'm just going to go. The only horse I'm adding is Trip Huben, who last time out in the local prep, the Fort Marcy over this interturf course, just couldn't get caught on the front end. Was very, very brave. Has won 2 in a row at Belmont after being competing and being walked off in the Fort Marcy last year in hopes of making this race. So, very interesting to see what Chad Brown has in store with that horse. But yes, very similar. You can't separate domestic spending and Colonel Liam at this point, especially with domestic spending maybe having a little more upside second up off the layoff. Colonel Liam has been competing throughout the year so far. This is race number 5, but I think you have to include both. And Gafo, I mean, that was such a tough beat last time. I think you got to retry.
How does that happen?
I don't know. I'm not feeling Channel Cat in this spot. I don't think Channel Cat is going to get as easy a lead as last time. No. And I don't see it personally. So
the one thing I will say is if the horse that you're using that I'm not using wasn't going to run, I would like Channel Cat a lot more. But I think what happens is Chad Brown uses the 8 as a rabbit for the other 3.
I think that very well could happen with Eric Ansell up. So I am including just in case Terhune, who showed just massive bravery last time out, going at ridiculous splits and somehow holding on against a couple of horses that are in this field, City Man, Rock Emperor. Knew I was going to screw up one of these weird random turf horse names.
You mispronounced Hanger.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Rock Emperor is a very fun horse to own, but I'm looking at this, and I actually sent JD a message last night saying if you use Rock Emperor on a win-only ticket, you're not just getting one hanger, you're getting every hanger in my closet. That's a horse that likes running second and third. Just throwing that out there. And, of course, now that I have said that, I have talked Rock Emperor into the winner's circle, and he's going to be Chad Brown's next turf superstar between now and the end of the year. So Manicat Stables, Michael Dubb, and everybody else, you're welcome.
Well,
all right, Magic, your thoughts.
Well, on Rock Emperor, I mean, my God, I've loved betting against this horse every time he's been in America. He's 0 for 8 here. At 5 times he was the favorite, guys. It's not just that he's a hanger.
Funny.
He's a hanger that somehow is covered in gasoline and burns all the money in your wallet if you bet him. It's just ridiculous. And yet, now we're getting 8-1, which we haven't gotten that good of a price since his debut in the Belmont Derby when he was 10-1. I mean, I really hope this isn't the race that it happens to, but listen, domestic spending is going to be my top pick. I thought he was the best horse in the Turf Classic. I watched it replay several times. Nothing against Colonel Liam, but I thought domestic spending was a little bit better that day. Now it's second off the layoff. Second is a 4-year-old. Second time with my boy Flavian Pratt back in the saddle. So I'm all about this horse. Chad Brown loves Kingman sired horses. He's talked about that multiple times. He thinks that they are probably some of the best horses you could bring from Europe over to America for turf racing. JD, you were so close at having the correct 4 horses here. You used the wrong Chad Brown. It's actually the 5 Masterpiece, who 2 buyers in 2 American races beat everything else that the Chad Brown horses have, aside from the 105 there, which is a little bit off. But I will say that lone speed angle is a little scary, but I don't think Eric Ansell I don't think he's on it to win that horse or to win that race. Masterpiece, second off the layoff, second time as a 5-year-old now. But what I really caught my attention, Chad Brown gets this horse brought over, and the first thing that he does when he gets him, he goes, "We're going to put him in a Grade 1 race." Didn't win that race, gives him some time off. Now we go back to Keeneland, get a little bit softer ground, go a mile and an eighth, go a little longer. All right, we win. He beats horses that he should have beaten, and he doesn't beat them by much. That's kind of the Joel Rosario way when he's on the turf. Now we're getting Javier Castellano aboard. And by the way, pop quiz, hot shots. How many times has Chad Brown won this race?
Many.
5. He three-peated 2014, 15, 16, took 2 years off, decided to let everybody else try and win this race a little bit. 2019, 2020, he's going to make it 2021 as well, so it'll be the 6th time here. I do like Gaffo a lot. And I like Colonel Liam, but I really think, again, this is Chad Brown's race to lose.
The one thing I'll say with Tribhuman last time, it was a 5-horse field and 3 of them were Chad Brown. I don't think Chad Brown was expecting that horse to hold on in that situation again. It was a very brave performance, and I think that horse can surprise us in a very similar manner, and especially if Rock Empire just wants to hang like last time against Tribhuman. So there you go.
So I just want to throw it out there. The 3 of us have a lot of common ground in the first 3 races. If you're a longtime viewer of this show, you know that is not usually the case. And don't worry, you will not be disappointed because we've got one more race to go, and what a race it is. It is the Grade 1 Belmont Stakes for 3-year-olds going 1.5 miles. Now, I could very well just be the smart alecky person and say, I don't even know why we're previewing this race because I gave you the winner 4 months ago. But I'm not going to say that. JD, I'm not going to say that I gave you the winner of the Belmont 4 months ago. Aren't I a good co-host?
Yeah, but people would then turn around and expect you to maybe single that horse on your ticket, Andrew. And did you do that? Wait for it. Drum roll, please. You didn't.
No, I did not. I think Rombauer is the most likely winner. I have liked this horse going 12 furlongs ever since he won the El Camino Real Derby, and JD is now clutching his heart because that was just a terrible beat for him that day. Matt Dinnerman and I both gave out winning pick 4 tickets. He got nosed in that particular race. But that performance in the Preakness was freaky. That was something completely different from anything we had seen Rombauer do in the past. I liked Rombauer leading into this race months out because up until the Preakness, he hadn't really shown that rapid acceleration. Rather, he was a horse that would keep throwing 12 and change furlongs for as long as they would allow him to run. That kind of running style, I think, makes a return here. The question is, can he put up the kind of number that he did in the Preakness when he had a 102 buyer? I think he can. However, his biggest opposition to that, I don't think is Essential Quality. I don't think it's Hot Rod Charlie. I think it's horse number 7 in the program, Rock Your World, who hits me as the lone speed in this race. And if you look at what this horse did 2 starts ago in the Santa Anita Derby, yes, he went fairly quick early, but he got the lead and was able to cruise. Guys, I think there's a chance he gets that kind of trip again here. And I think he does it as no shorter than the 4th choice in the field. I've got to use him here. I respect Essential Quality, especially being by Tappet. That gives a decided schematic advantage going 12 furlongs. 2-1, I can't bet him. Hot Rod Charlie, to me, there's a lot of comparisons to Mucho Macho Man, who was a very good horse, made a lot of money, and I think Hot Rod Charlie, if they give him the chance to run as a 4-year-old, is going to do major damage in those 4-year-old 1.25-mile races. But the thing with Mucho Macho Man was, while he never let anybody pass him in the stretch of his races, he also had a real problem passing other horses. I was in attendance for when he couldn't run down to Honor and Serve in the Woodward. Just saying, it's still fresh in my brain. I think Hot Rod Charlie has that same gene. Where he hits at the top of the stretch is going to be where he finishes, and I just don't think he beats Rock Your World or Rombauer there. So I'm going 3-7 in here to finish off a $21 ticket. Now, you'll notice that I did single Knicks Go, and my thinking is, if this pays, $100 or so, I've turned Knicks Go into a 4-1 shot. This is another one of those, not necessarily the sexiest pick 4 sequences in the world, but from a math standpoint, if I'm right, I'm going to wind up getting an increased price on Knicks Go. So I'm thoroughly fine with that. It's a $21 ticket. I'll probably be putting up a grid style ticket on Saturday morning, so make sure to stay tuned on Twitter for that. But if you want to just play my ticket as it stands right now, it's a $21 play. It's not going to cost you too much. And we are going against a couple of favorites, including in the last leg to finish it out, where I think we're going to get the 3rd and 4th choices. I think Hot Rod Charlie's going to wind up being bet down to be the 2nd choice. I think Rombauer drifts up a little bit, and maybe that gives us a little bit of value.
I am going to let Curtis go next because I want to make sure that people see his ticket, because I feel like when people see my ticket, they might turn the show off.
It's going to happen.
people usually just fold up their computers and throw it away when they see JD's computer. Listen, I understand it. I understand. Essential qualities, of course, he's my top pick here. He's a son of Tappet. Tappet loves to put in horses that win this race. One thing that I've learned, and I have been following horse racing much, I think about 5 years now, is when it comes to the longer races, you really got to have some good speed there. And that's why I think Rock Your World is a great play. He's on my ticket. Hot Rod Charlie, depending on what kind of trip he gets under Flavien Prat, which, by the way, if you notice, 3 for 3 with Flavien Prat on my ticket.
Yeah, how many times has he mentioned Flavien, JD? It's certainly more than I said.
I'm on 47, I believe.
Okay, there we go.
Rider of Tis a Magician in the Brooklyn, by the way.
To that.
Essentially, so first of all, Andrew, I do want to commend you for 4 months ago predicting that that Rombauer would get here. Because if you watch this trail, how it works, getting a horse 4 months out and saying we're going to go to this race, you have to wrap them in Teflon really hard just to get them there. So congratulations, you. Do you know who in April of 2020 predicted was going to win the Belmont Stakes? It was Brad Cox the first time he saw Essential Quality work.
Yep. Yeah.
So do I know more than Brad Cox? Heck no. I definitely don't. Brad Cox thinks his horse is the Belmont winner. I think that if you watch the Kentucky Derby, he had the worst trip of all of the top contenders with as wide as he got to run. It's an 8-horse field, and he's drawn post 2. If Luis Saez figures out a way to make this horse go wide, Luis Saez should probably get some security to get him out of Belmont, because I think a lot of people are going to be very upset at him. Hot Rod Charlie, it's going to come down to a trip. And speaking of the Flavien Prat-ridden Tis a Magician, he also loves to just not pass horses. He likes to go to the front, but if somebody's in front of him, he doesn't really like to pass him that much. So I understand your trepidation there. I just couldn't get past those 3 horses. I really couldn't do it. I do, however, I can't wait for this. I've been waiting for almost the entire day since I heard about it. I cannot wait to hear the case made for the 5-horse. I cannot wait for this.
All right. Well, first of all, if we're playing the hat game, okay, there's your Godolphin hat that I'll send you if Essential Quality wins if you don't have a Godolphin hat. How about that, Curtis?
I don't, and I got a spot right there for it too. You can put it
okay,
right there.
Perfect. That's a deal, because I don't think it's going to happen. In fact, I see chaos in this race, and I think the weather is going to play a big role in it. I am hitting the all but the likely 3 favorites button.
You're hitting the all but the magic button. You literally are playing every horse that I'm not. And again, I feel attacked coming on your show.
Oh, wait, we haven't talked about Tis a Magician yet, so just you wait. Because we all know that's coming. Okay, so really what I look at here is it's all about pace. And I take the 3 horses that I think are going to be in the front in what I believe will be a very tiring racetrack on Saturday. And I'm expecting some chaos. I'm going to talk about Bourbonic first. And, obviously my claim to fame this year, Wood Memorial Bourbonic. And I've talked about this race ad nauseum. But the allowance race right before it at Parks, in the slop, in conditions that they probably should not have been running in. This is the only horse, all card, that passed a horse in the stretch from the back of the field. I know that sounds crazy, but this horse has galloped out like a machine each time out. And that Parks performance on February 23rd, if you haven't watched it, take a look at how that horse closes and realize that nobody came close to doing that all day. And then obviously the closing kick in the Wood Memorial was huge as well. Andrew.
So just to be clear, you are evaluating a February performance at Parks over a 100 buyer speed figure in the Santa Anita Derby.
Because of the conditions that we're going to see on Saturday, which thankfully on this Triple Crown Trail, we have not seen the slop play a gigantic role in it as of yet.
Speak that into existence.
This is very similar to last week on this show when I was giving out MTOs because I was like, it's going to be raining cats and dogs. Everything's coming off the turf, and this is going to be a chaotic card. And you guys were all picking your horses that got scratched and basically wasted all of their time. It didn't win either.
We didn't
Neither
lose.
did I.
We should have lost, but we didn't lose.
All right, Francisco de Ina. Magic's been waiting for it.
So
again, this has been very similar to the last month and a half on this show when I've talked about Francisco de Ina. When I was excited pre-Derby, when I knew Francisco de Ina was going to come in, and they had already decided This horse was going to run the Preakness and then run the Belmont. I was very, very impressed with what I saw from this horse watching the races at Hanshin, and I don't think the horse liked the surface at Maidan. So given the pedigree, and again, I know, a pedigree is not everything. This horse has ran 5 times, and I see a Curlin mare in Dreamy Blues. I see Will Take Charge. This horse wants 2 things in life: the longest race humanly possible and potentially the sloppiest and messiest race humanly possible. And those are 2 things that the Belmont Stakes on Saturday, I believe, will deliver for this. I like the tactical speed angle being right behind those 3 horses that I'm kicking off the ticket: Essential Quality, Hot Rod Charlie, and Rock Your World. I think first run is got Francisco de Ina a shot. I don't think Francisco de Ina wanted to be as close. I mean, almost took the lead for a second there in the Preakness before backing out of it. I think in the Belmont, going to have 1 sustained run, and I actually like Ricardo Santana Jr. jumping aboard in this spot because I think he is the type of rider that generally sets his mounts up for 1 run, and I think that fits Francisco de Ina's style. Who else do you want me to talk about? Because all of my horses make no sense to most. Overtook. Yeah. You want me to talk about Overtook?
Yeah, Overtook, please, because I'm looking at this, and this is the one where I actually get the pedigree angle. Because you have a Curlin out of an AP Indy mare that could run. But then I look at the form lines and I look at the owner. And I'm thinking Mike Rapoli entered a horse in here because he's a New York guy and the Belmont is his race.
Okay, I know you can kind of look at that. The one thing I'm looking at here is, okay, we've got a horse that's only won a maiden. Okay, I'll be the first to admit that. That doesn't look good on paper. I will also say that is the only race that this horse has ran where there was a legitimate pace and this horse could actually close into it. It was a slow running of the Withers. It was a crawl in the Peter Pan. This horse still closed ground, still made up ground in what are pretty impossible circumstances. So again, I think they're going to go fast given the 1.5 miles. I think it's going to be a taxing surface, and I'm willing to play any horse that can pass horses, and that's why I have everybody but the 3 horses I feel like are going to be jostling for the lead. Am I crazy? Probably, but it's a $50 play. This is not going to be, Andrew talked about, hey, maybe we won $100. If my ticket hits, you're turning those $50, even with Knicks Go singled, probably into $900 to $1,000. And that's what it's all about on days like this, having fun and picking some winners throughout the card so you can have this craziness and go on this ride and this journey with me, folks. $50 play.
Or we could just get Rombauer home and I will become an insufferable jerk who makes my 128 winners at Saratoga Racecourse, boasting, look like a whisper. And you have Rombauer on your ticket, by the way. Let's not forget that.
I do. Rombauer got me the pick 3. Probably should have got me the pick 4 if I was a smarter handicapper.
You've got the winner.
Yeah, I've got Francisco de Ina. That's all
Despite
I need.
your best efforts, you have the winner of the Belmont Stakes on your ticket. Anyway, JD, I love you, buddy. And hopefully everybody out there understands that, look, we're all horse players. We love playful chop busting and having a good time. But these are 3 people that bust their butts to give you a whole bunch of really good content. If you haven't seen Curtis's show, by all means, go ahead and do that. 300 episodes of anything. It's not an easy thing to do, buddy. So more power to you. And that's certainly something that if you haven't checked out yet, you absolutely should. You should also check out our 3 Pick 4 tickets, which we will, of course, be throwing out on social media as the day gets closer. And you can see our tickets cycling through in here. My ticket, $21. Curtis's ticket, $48. JD's ticket, $50. Take parts you like, throw out parts you don't like. The important thing, get involved. This is a really cool day of racing. There's a lot of competitive racing going on. And in fact, the day is so competitive that JD had a late day brainstorm, and we've got a new addition to the rundown.
Yes, we're going to play for the first time on this show a great game for the card called Find a Price. So
I like the voice. That's pretty good.
So basically what I've tasked everyone with is try to find an 8-1 shot or higher on this card that you like, that it doesn't necessarily have to be on the win end either, but a horse that you think has a legitimate shot in a race. And I'm going to go ahead, and I hope Andrew wasn't going the same direction. I feel like he might, but I'm going to look in the Brooklyn.
Fine.
And while I would hope that everybody spends their hard-earned money on some win bets on Tiz the Magician, I'm going to give you a legitimate shot on a horse I think can finish behind Tiz the Magician, and that's the number 2, Rise the Guy. And I think really we've looked at the experiment of Rise the Guy on turf and realized it has not worked well. But what this horse has done well is A, just run on dirt in general, and B, this 1.5 miles on dirt seems to fit this horse's profile. Obviously won at Churchill as the even money favorite in the stakes event on September 1st, and then came back and ran a really strong second off the layoff back on April 27th at Churchill, going this distance. You have to throw out the Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance Stakes. Just never recovered from a tough start, and really wasn't asked. If you watch Landeros, I mean, Landeros basically stopped riding that horse. So I know it shows that the horse finished beaten 55 lengths. You just have to toss that one out. So you look at the form on the dirt. I don't care about the turf races. This horse did not obviously like running on the turf, but you look at the dirt form, you look at the back class in some of that dirt form, and I think this horse has a legitimate shot, and should, in my case. I'm not saying legitimate shot. I think this horse will hit the board, and we're getting a 12-1 morning line. So I know, obviously, Tiz the Magician, a big part of Curtis, and also a big part of Andrew for another reason and way that we won't get into. But I'm going with the 2, Rise the Guy, for Ian Wilkes with Jose Ortiz aboard in the Brooklyn.
Okay, cool. Curtis, your turn.
It's a good horse to finish second behind Tiz the Magician. I think
there you go. We're good.
Good looking photo there. Listen, I'm going to go to the Ogden Phipps here, and I don't know. I'm not good at guessing what the morning line odds will change to when you have a short price favorite that's going to scratch out, which is Valiant's scratching out. Not my pick here. My top pick in the race before Valiant's even came out, all the way on the outside, the number 7, Bonnie South. Brad Cox, very high on this horse coming into her 4-year-old season. She wins the Double Dog Dare, shows a lot of fight, and I love that she showed that much fight after a 5-month break, which means she came back fresh, ready to fight, ready to go, ready to keep winning, which she hadn't done in over a year. So it was really nice to see her to kind of show a new mentality there at age 4. She's been working heads up with Essential Quality, and you just heard us in the Belmont Stakes where I said Essential Quality was my top pick, where I thought that you had a really strong chance to win. If this horse has been lockstep with him in the workouts and has been looking just as good as Essential Quality has, I don't know how I don't love this horse in this spot. She's got a lot of tough competition here. Latriska ended up beating Monomoy Girl last time out. You've got to worry about She Dares the Devil in her own barn. And, oh, yeah, Swiss Skydiver is pretty good, especially when she breaks from the rails. Interesting stat on that one, too. But I really think that Bonnie South here with Joel Rosario, who actually has a better win percentage with Brad Cox than Florent Giroux does when we're in New York. When we're on dirt. I really think Bonnie South is going to surprise a lot of people here. I'm just mad that Valiant, who I really didn't like off of the long layoff, I'm mad that she's not here because I think she's going to take money. 10-1s, I think that's a pipe dream at this point for Bonnie South. But if I can get 7-1, 8-1, we'll still consider her a long shot. I think she's got a legitimate chance here.
Yeah, I can't find fault with any of that, especially if you're looking for a price in that kind of race. It's a good race, by the way, even with that horse unfortunately scratching out of the Ogden Phipps. You see, you guys are focusing on the bigger races. I'm going to focus very early on the Saturday program. I'm going to take a look at race number 2. This is a maiden race for 3-year-olds. And I'm looking at this race. Chad Brown's got a couple. Guys, I don't like either of them. Soft Power hasn't been working all that well. Pipeline got bet a little bit first time out on dirt. Tries turf. Not sure why they started him on dirt to move him to turf. A lot of questions there. I'm not sold on King James. I just don't think the May 2nd race was all that special. And by that discipline, I don't like Ranger Fox either. That leaves one other horse in single digits, and it's number 4, Migrate, who looks really good if you take a deep dive into that pedigree. He's by Candy Ride out of a mare named Mama Tia. Mama Tia has thrown 7 winners, and she herself is a half to a horse by the name of Runway Model. And if Runway Model sounds a little familiar, there's a reason for that. Good racehorse, really good broodmare. I see that pedigree. I see $575,000 at auction back in 2019. I see Belmont Junior Alvarado. I see first-time Lasix on a Belmont runner, which usually means that he means business. I see a really good work tab. I see 8-1. Okay, I'll gladly take that. That's a horse that's going to be an early day maker for me. Horse number 4 in race number 2, Migrate. And I think there's a chance this horse has some serious talent, and you might see this horse show up at some big spots up at Saratoga.
I almost picked a horse in this race, Andrew. I'm gonna just wedge my way in here quickly. If you like the 4 Migrate, maybe pair in your exactas and tries with the 9, My Cousin Rich. So big turf pedigree on My Cousin Rich, and if you look second foal to hit the track from the mare, and the first one, and the mare is Pickaway. The first one just actually ran for the first time at Indiana Grand back when the weather cooperated early last month.
And
ran a really
that one day,
and ran a really bang up second, and ran a time form US 100 speed figure, which would annihilate this field. And this horse had been running very similar figures to the 77 time form that My Cousin Rich ran first time up, sprinting 6 furlongs on the dirt at Parks. I think My Cousin Rich has a big pedigree play angle, and I think having a sister that's out and doing it now on turf, obviously getting turf for the first time and really wanting turf at Indiana Grand, and will have more turf tries. I think this is a strong turf pedigree, and 15-1 morning line. I don't think we're going to see it, but B, I think this horse has a big shot there.
That's for darn sure. So some really good plays from all of us here, hopefully, at Belmont. And now it's time for our final thoughts segment. We're going to be incredibly respectful of our guest's time because he has one of those things called a family that he needs to get back to. So we're going to do that here. Curtis, you go first.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I apologize. He loves to make his entrance in Magic Mike's show. Whenever I go live, he ends up getting fussy. So
that's called timing, and you can't teach that, buddy.
By the way, love My Cousin Rich as an underneath play in that spot. I was looking at that. That was a good one. Final thoughts. Listen, this is going to be, I think it's going to be a really fun day of racing. I really hope the weather cooperates and the turf races can stay on. If they're good, if they're soft, just please let us have it because there's so many talented turf horses here. And then the 2 grade 1 races that we covered here on the Pick 4 sequence, I think that you've got some real potential superstars. They're going to be just knocking heads, and you want to see that. I'm with you guys. Mike and I covered Belmont last week, and when it all washed off the turf, it washed away all my excitement. But over at racenews.com, the specialty for us, if you don't know about us, is that we sell picks for every race, every track around the country. Aaron Halterman is the co-owner, and he literally handicaps every race, every track around the country. That's one person doing all of that work, and he's really darn good at it. But we have what's called the Inside Track to the Belmont Stakes Wagering Guide, which is available right now for sale. It's 19 pages. It is in-depth coverage of every single race, including the maiden races here. I know that he and Andrew disagree on this race, and not to be bad against my company here, I'm kind of on Andrew's side a little bit with the way this race is going to play out here, so we'll see what happens. But the one thing that he and Jared Welch, the other co-owner of RacingNews.com, have been doing lately for the big days, such as the Derby, the Preakness, is they do a live bankroll article. And so they are at the track, and they are telling you this is literally what we are going to play on the day, because sometimes if you're buying picks from people, if you've done that before, you don't know if they're actually playing it. You don't know if they're just trying to take your money, and if you win, great. If not, whatever. You literally can win or lose with these guys. The Kentucky Derby, they had I think a 60% ROI. The Breeders' Cup last fall, when they did it for the first time, over 80% ROI on return for those. So literally, if you just buy the guide and follow their picks with the live bankroll, you've got a strong chance to get your money back and then a heck of a lot more. The Preakness Stakes, they had a really bad time of getting second when they needed first, third when they needed second for the exactas and the tries. So, yeah, thank you. So, all right, so it wasn't just us. I thought we just had a bad luck, but it was one of those things we knew was going to happen. But regardless, that is something that we are very proud of over RacingNews.com. They have the Blinkers Off podcast that they've been doing for over 10 years now. They just hit 500 episodes last week. And then the Magic Mike Show. We're getting close to 300, but we're still a ways behind. But That's final thoughts. And one last thing, go to the Magician in the Brooklyn. This is my one of the very first horses I ever bought into with my racehorse. I have 21 of them now, I think. That horse, when he won the Tokyo City Cup last out, I was literally bawling in the car on the side of the road because I was so happy that this horse that I've known since when he was just a wee little baby finally got his win. And so hopefully if he wins a $400,000 grade 2, I'm going to be a puddle on the floor when that happens.
Curtis, I wish you luck. I have nothing against Tis a Magician, the racehorse. In fact, I thought Drayden Van Dyke had the ride of the Santa Anita meet on January 2nd when he picked that horse up going down the lane. And ultimately somebody decided to fine him because they thought he was riding too aggressively. But I got to tell you, I thought Tis a Magician ran gigantic that day. I had him that day. You knew this was coming. Tis a Magician has a Twitter. I'm putting you on the spot right now. Do you have any idea who runs that thing?
Hand to God, I do not know. And I can promise you it's not me because my job is a content manager and editor, and I'm very strongly attuned to grammar and correct punctuation. None of those tweets have any of those. That's how you know it's not me. And
you also have, the idea of don't get fired, because here's what I did. So way back in January of 2020, Tis a Magician goes in a maiden race at Santa Anita. I had bet the horse on November 30th at Del Mar. Curtis, you sort of hinted at it. He doesn't like to pass horses, and he didn't like to pass horses that day. It was a pretty epic hang job. And I had mentioned on Twitter, nothing personally. I just said, hey, if this horse wins, he beats me doing it. Well, horse wins. And whoever it was that ran that Twitter account had a great deal of fun at my expense. And I don't have a lot of respect for people who just drag people like that for absolutely no reason, especially when you know it's not under somebody's name and you don't have a face to put with what they're saying. So do me a favor, will you? If you ever find out who runs the Tis a Magician Twitter account, maybe it's the horse. I don't know. Maybe this is just a super advanced racehorse. But do me a favor. Find whatever device this person or horse uses to tweet. Change the language settings to like Portuguese or something, just to mess with them. I'd really appreciate that.
You got it, buddy.
Perfect. That's my final thought. JD, can you send us home with anything more constructive?
Okay, I will say, since we've been on the air, Jose Ortiz, picture of Irad Ortiz doing okay. X-rays clean. He says he's going to be back in a couple weeks. So we will see some jockey changes for this weekend at Belmont, so stay tuned.
Happy he's okay, though. Could have been a lot worse.
Could have been a lot worse. I think we just got bruises and lacerations, which are no fun. But obviously, given the circumstances, we're happy for that. Also want to give a shout out. Arizona Downs had their first two racing days on Tuesday and Wednesday. And my buddy Aaron Vercruzzi went up there to do a little bit of on-track coverage as a paddock host. So him getting back doing that just kind of brings back all sorts of warm and fuzzy memories, and I know he's having a good time doing it. So just want to give a shout out there, and I want to thank everybody for watching, obviously. And it's been a lot of fun as we've grown this podcast, and it's good to have a friend of the show like Curtis on. So enjoy the Belmont Stakes, everybody. And Andrew, why don't you hit him with the catchphrase?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, have fun, be safe, and stay off the beaches, y'all.
Take care, everybody.